years.
Hello everybody, welcome to Greg's Vintage Workshop, where I'm working to restore history one piece at a time. Tonight we're going to be continuing on with part 9 of the 1929 Victor R-32 TRF Tube radio. And in part 9 I will be reassembling the amplifier unit. I actually had some decent days over the last month that I could get out a few times and paint the exterior of the chassis and the cans and the transformer cans, condenser can, etc. So I'm going to get that back together again tonight, and we'll take it from there. So without further ado, let's get started. Okay, so I actually got a couple of days where I could get out and paint the condenser cans and transformer cans and the chassis, amplifier chassis in general. Nothing special, just some Rust-Oleum brown that was pretty darn close to what it was. I don't know if it was 100% accurate, but pretty darn close. So I masked off the tubes. I'll show you here. Masked off the tube sockets and the outlets, and it turned out pretty good, I think. I mean, for what it is, I think it turned out pretty good. So let me get you set here. I'm ready to start trying to put this thing back together again, as far as getting the cans and such in there. So I've got obviously the condenser can here, and it's got to go right here, actually right here, and it would go something like this right here. I can get the other corner in. It's got a leg like this on the opposite side that's going in the same spot as that one. I think if I get a little hammer and whack it, it'll go. So I will take my trusty little hammer and see if we can knock these in without scratching the paint too bad. There it is. Alright. There's that. Now, got to get the other ones in place. So I'm going to get you at a better angle to see what I'm doing here. That's a little better. Alright. So this is the interstage and the output transformer. And there's 4 tabs on this side and 3 tabs on this side, which goes on this side. So it only really goes in one way. So it should be able to just, listen to me, should just be able to just set this in there and it should go right in. Yeah, right. Maybe, maybe not. Maybe not as easy as it sounds. Yeah, it is as easy as it sounds. Went right in there. So now that leaves the little one. Now this one makes me a little nervous. It went in as easy as it did because I really need to flip this thing up so I can bend some tabs to keep those from falling out. I might have to stand it up on end in order to do that. And I probably don't want to put this one in yet. Probably do not want to put this one in yet. Unless it feels like it'll stay on its own. It might. Yeah, that one's going to stay on its own. This one's going to stay on its own, and this one's going to stay on its own, but this one could be a little bit of a problem. Now I do want to get a rubber mallet and give this one a little whack because it doesn't look like it's fully seated on that corner right there. so hopefully I can do this without messing my paint up. I think it's down. Alright, I gotta stand this thing up on end. Let me bring you back once I get that done. Alright, I got it flipped over. I think it's protected with rags. And what I've got here, this is actually a plastic dowel punch and a ball peen, obviously. And so what I'm doing is I'm getting them started, and then I'm flattening them down. Now this one, I'm going to have to have a screwdriver versus that because I can't get into it. Got to get where I can get a good angle to hit it where I don't push it out. That looks pretty good. And then as I push them down, I got to hope they don't snap off. Alright, that one's down, that one's down, that one's down, and that one's down. That leaves 1, 2 here and 1, 2 there. So let's see if I can get that started. Yeah, I think it went. Move the harness out of the way here a little bit so I can get it down. There, that one's down. I'm working on that output transformer and the interstage transformer is what I'm working on right at the moment. And I cut that loose, so that's kind of, I can move that slightly out of my way. Keep from crushing that wire. There's that one. Alright, I think that's all of that one. Lucky for me, none of them broke off. Can is down about as far as it's going to go. That leaves the big one here. Alright, this side is down on the big can. I got to get the other side down because it looks like it has popped out. So I'm going to have to flip it over to do that. Let me move you out of the way. Back you out. All my blocks and see how much damage I did to everything. Didn't take much to put it back in there, but I gotta be able to hold it that way. I need to hold it that way without messing up my paint. Let me see what I can come up with. I see a little mar on those, but might just have to live with those. I'll bring you back. So I got a clamp on there to pull that over and hold it in place, and I'm going to flip it on its side and get those final tabs bent over. Alright, I got all the tabs bent down. I didn't break a single one off. Now all I got to do is go through and solder all my wires back on. I'm gonna bore you with those things. I've already bored you enough, so let me get all these soldered back on here. I'm going to recheck these resistors again. I was thinking that I wanted to match my 45s up closer than what these are, but I'll probably just use them the way they are. If not, I'm going to print a new holder to put it in so it looks kind of original. But I think I'll probably just go with these. I think it will be fine, at least enough to test it. If it doesn't, it turns out it doesn't work for whatever reason, the transformers I put in weren't right or whatever, then it wouldn't be worth the effort. So we're just going to hook these wires all up and go from there. We're getting close to being able to power it up, I think. Okay, so let me show you what I got done. So got all the tabs all bent down good and solid, and I went through and using all the schematic and all my drawings and photos, I got the input transformer hooked up, interstage transformer hooked up, the output transformer hooked up, and the large capacitor can hooked up, and I added a fuse, a little 2 amp fuse right here. This is one of those that solders in place, and it's close enough here it can't get against anything. This is actually on the input line, so it's fused now. This is hum control. Remember we had the hum control in the other section? It didn't make sense because it wasn't adjustable. It was actually apparently in there just as a resistor, pretty much, because this here is actually the hum control, and you come in from the side right through here to adjust it. And I did put a meter on it, and it is testing properly. Now this is the tone control, and this one I can't get it to test properly. We took a lead off of it, so I'm going to go ahead and pull it on out and take a closer look at it. But once I get this tone control hooked up, this portion is done. The other thing I did, I think I was telling you in one of the first parts of this restoration, was the 245 tubes, which is here and here. We have these resistors for those 45s, and from what I've read, they're supposed to be pretty equal. And when I did my initial tests, one of them was 473,000 of them. They're all supposed to be, all three of these are supposed to be half meg. And I believe this one was reading 473, this one was reading 514, and this one was reading 517. So that being said, they were out of tolerance, just slightly out of tolerance. I mean, just slightly. They're within tolerance as far as I'm concerned. The one being lower than the others. But what I decided to do, obviously, was to use them versus replacing them with some aftermarket stuff like we get today. So what I did was I took the one that was 473, which was this one, and I moved it with this one, which was reading 524. I'm running from memory. I actually have it written down. Let me look at my notes. Better off to look at my notes versus going from my memory, because my memory isn't worth crap anymore. Yeah, so here's my notes. You can read that horrible writing I've got here. Here's the 473, here's the 524, and here's the 515. So what I did was I changed the one that was reading 473, I moved it over to this one. And the one that was reading 515, which was this one, I moved over here. So now the 245s, the resistors for those are 515 and 524. So much more balanced, and that's what I wanted to do. So I think that'll make it better, but that's what I did. Also clean this as best I can clean it. It doesn't look like I cleaned it, but I actually did, and that stuff just doesn't come off. So I'm going to take this off and we'll take a look at it. I can't remember if I checked that power resistor in the beginning or not, so I think we're going to check it right now. Now I've pre-marked it. You can see this section's R4, this is R2, R6, and R11. And don't worry about that right now, because I'm going to get the computer down here. I'm going to bring you up on the big screen so I can show you what we're checking. But I'm going to check it now, and then we'll go back and look at the schematic. I mean, I can show you on this schematic, but it's too teeny. So we're going to check R4 first, and R4 is supposed to be 775 ohms. So let's go ahead and check R4. And we got 776 ohms, so that's good. Next one we're going to check is R2 next to it. R2 is supposed to be 200 ohms. Okay, so let's check R2. Supposed to be 200, we got 204.8, so that's good. R6 is supposed to be, if I'm reading that correctly because it's so small, it looks like 3350. Well, it settled out on about 1300, but at one point it flashed up about 33 something, so I might just have bad connection. And it's saying 1331. Now, if I go all the way to the end, we're 2300. Either way, it's not matching what they're saying. And then the last one we're going to do is R11, which R11 on this says 30,000 ohms. But I know we don't have that. We have 4200 if I take it that way. If we take it from here, we've got 1978. Now, I also know that this R11 resistor is for the interstage, is between the interstage transformer and the input transformer. And I believe it's terminal 2 on the interstage and terminal 4 on the input stage. And what do we say? We had 1978, so let's look it up here. Try to. I got nothing. Let me look at the schematic, make sure I got my locations correct. Alright, let's see here. It is between terminal 2, yeah, terminal 2 and terminal 4. That's what I thought. Maybe I didn't have a good grip. Let's get a better grip down here. Yep. There we go. Oh, yep, okay. Terminal 2 and terminal 4. And there it is, 1978. Oh, 1979. So I know that that's R11 when I go between here and here. But that being said, one of the things that I noticed when I was looking at these diagrams, this might be big enough I can show you. Let me get this meter out of the way. This is showing a 3-part power resistor. There's a terminal, there's a terminal, there's a terminal, and there's a terminal. 1, 2, 3, 4 terminals. What's mine got? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 terminals. This is different than what this is. So I'm not quite sure what's going on with that. But checking per the schematic, it checks right, other than the description is calling that R11 a 30,000 ohm resistor, and we're not even close to 30,000 ohm. So here's the schematic up on the big screen downstairs. I had one of my viewers, after I think it was part 8, had asked that I show my schematic more, or at least put a link to it. There's really no good links to it. This particular one here I think I got from the Radio Museum, And when it's printed out, you just can't really read it. So the best way when I have to look at it, unless I'm looking at it under a magnifier, I got a 3 times magnifier and I got a 5 times magnifier, then I can kind of make them out. This particular one is the one that we were talking about a little bit earlier when I was talking about the grid leak resistors for the 245, where the three little resistors that I had changed a couple of them around to make them match better. So on this particular print here, these are the 45 tubes, the 245s. They had 2s in front of everything back then. But these are the 245 tubes in this circuit. And here is the R9 for that 245, the grid leak. That's the grid right there, plate in the grid. And so there's the R9 grid leak there. This is the interstage transformer here. This is the input transformer in the interstage, and this is the output transformer. So there's the first R9, there's the second R9 for this 245 tube, and over here is the third R9 that was for the 226 tube. So these were the particular resistors that I was swapping around. So what I basically did was take this one because it was a closer match to one over here, and so I swapped them around so I would have a better match between these two. When I was checking the power resistor, which is this right here, and I was showing you that I had 5 terminals versus 4, I think it was. Since I don't have it in front of me, I can't say whether that was it. Anyway, this one would have 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, so 4. So I had 5, and this one only has 4 showing on here. So the one that was in the TRF radio section, that hum control that didn't make sense, that was posing as a resistor, measured 20 ohms. This particular hum control is that one. The hum control is in the amplifier section, was reading 0 to 5 ohms. And so therefore I think they were getting the 20 to 25 ohms by using that first one as just a resistor, and then the second one to do the fine tuning. So that's the way I'm assuming that worked. But again, when we were talking the R6, the R2, and the R4, these are the ones we were talking about. This is that power resistor. So I wanted to show you on this print, big enough that you could see it and that I can see it to talk to it, that those were the things that we were looking at and checking earlier. And all of the connections that I hooked up from an electrical standpoint were all of these wire connections to the input, the interstage, and the output. Wanted to show you that on the schematic. Okay, I've got that tone control out. As you can see, it's just a wire rheostat. It doesn't feel like it's got very much tension at all. Thinking maybe the spring tension might not be that hot, but it also looks pretty corroded down inside there. So I loosened that with a wrench. Get you in the screen where you can see what I'm doing. I loosened that with a wrench. Let's go ahead and pull this off here. See if we can keep from totally screwing this thing up. See what we got going on here. I don't know if I can get that apart or not. And if I do, I don't know what I'm expecting to see. Somehow I'm thinking that something's soldered to something. Those wires have got to be soldered to those terminals. So I don't know that I can get that out of there and see anything. Yeah, I don't want to screw this up. I'm going to put this back on here and see if I can get this shaft off of here. I don't see any retention. That's the thing. I don't see anything retaining that, but something's got to be retaining that. And I don't know what it would be, but I don't want to booger this up. Oh, I'm going to take a look at this thing and I'll bring you back. Alright, I've got the tone control back in place. I couldn't get it completely apart as you saw, and I wasn't going to tear it up. But I did spray some deoxit inside the shaft area, spun it around. I took some sandpaper around the edges of the wire and around on the bottom of this, but it really didn't make it much better. I mean, on the far end, this is supposed to be a 1 meg resistor, and it's registering higher than what it's like, I don't know, 1.3, 1.4, but, and it'll go all the way down practically a 0 on the other end, but it's jumpy all over the place. I mean, I put it on my analog meter, and it was jumpy all over the place. I mean, it gradually manages to get down there, but not before it goes high a whole bunch of times getting there. So it's basically garbage. But, I mean, as far as tone's concerned, I guess as long as I have it on the high side or I have it on the low side and don't worry about what's in between, then I guess I don't have to worry about it. But it's back in there, and so right now this is all buttoned up. All I got left to do on this is flip it over and get the tubes in it, but right now I don't have a 45 tube, so I'm gonna have to come up with a 45 tube. I've got the 26, that other 26 I got from Ron C. I know I got an 80, and I know I got a 45 because I got a 45 from Ron, but I need one more 45. So anyway, I don't want this to stay much longer, and I think I'm going to go ahead and end this one here because I want to get this out. But between now and the next one, I'll hopefully get a 45 tube and we can get this thing plugged in. I still have to paint the speaker housing. The speaker itself is in good shape. It didn't look like there was anything wrong with it, and I had ohmed it out, I believe, in the first or second part, and it was fine. So all I gotta do is clean it up and paint it. I don't know that I'll show that, but when we come back, we'll go ahead and plug this thing and see if it's gonna do anything. Anyway, I appreciate you watching Greg's Vintage Workshop, and hopefully we're entertaining you whether we fix anything or not. Thanks for watching.